It started with a post that should have been ignored, buried deep in a travel forum, written by someone with no history, no profile picture, no replies, just one message that stayed online long enough for a few people to notice. He wrote about a hotel room that didn't exist, not in any booking system, not on any website, not even in the hotel's own records. He claimed he stayed there for one night. He said he didn't choose the room. He was given the key without asking. And that was the first strange detail, because he never remembered speaking to the receptionist. He only remembered standing at the desk and then suddenly holding a key. The number on the key didn't make sense. It didn't match any floor. It didn't follow any pattern. At first, he thought it was just a mistake, until he tried to find the room again the next morning, and it was gone. People who, I read the post, thought it was fake. Just another story meant to get attention. But a few users decided to check anyway. They searched for the hotel and they found it. Everything matched exactly. The location, the name, the interior photos, even the hallway he described, it was all real. But when they checked the room numbers, there was a gap, a missing number between two existing rooms. At first, it seemed like a small detail, something easy to ignore. But the more they looked, the more it felt intentional, like something had been removed, not forgotten. Removed. One user decided to visit the hotel in person. Just to prove the story wrong, they booked a normal room, checked in like any other guest. Nothing felt strange at first. The lobby was quiet, the staff were polite. Everything seemed normal until late at night, when the hotel became silent, too silent. Like the building itself was holding its breath. They walked down the hallway, following the same direction described in the post, step by step, until they reached the end, and that's when they saw it. A door with no number, no label, just a plain surface, slightly open, with darkness inside. They stood there for a long time, trying to understand what they were looking at, because they were sure that door was not there before. They didn't go inside. Not that night. Instead, they went back to their room, locked the door, and waited until morning. When the sunlight filled the hallway again, they returned to the same spot, but the door was gone. In its place, there was only a wall, seamless, unbroken, like nothing had ever been there. They checked both sides, they counted the rooms again. Everything was normal, except for one thing. The numbering still skipped. The same number was still missing. They reported it to the hotel staff. At first, the staff looked confused, like they didn't understand the question. But when the guest mentioned the missing room number, something changed. Their expressions shifted. Not fear, not surprise. Something else. Something controlled. They repeated the same sentence. There is no such room here, and when asked again, they said it again. Exactly the same way. Like they were reading from memory, not responding naturally. That's when the guest realized this was not the first time someone had asked. The guest could not ignore it anymore. Something about the way the staff responded felt rehearsed, like they had answered this question many times before, but were trying to pretend it was new. So that night, they decided to go back again, this time with their phone ready, camera open, recording everything. The hallway was the same, long, silent, empty. But as they reached the end, they felt it again. That strange heaviness in the air, like the space itself was changing. And then, slowly, the door appeared. Not suddenly, not instantly, but like something fading into view, becoming real, piece by piece, until it was fully there. Slightly open, exactly as before. Their hands were shaking, but they kept recording. Every step felt heavier than the last. The closer they got, the quieter everything became. Even their own footsteps sounded distant, like they were no longer inside the same building. They reached the door and gently pushed it open. The hinges made no sound. Inside the room looked normal at first. A bed, a chair, a small table. Nothing unusual, but something felt wrong. The space felt deeper than it should be, like the room extended beyond what was visible. They stepped inside and the door closed behind them. Not fast, not violently, just slowly, until it clicked shut. The silence inside was different, heavier, thicker. Like sound could not travel properly. They tried to speak, but their voice felt muted, as if the room was absorbing it. They turned in a full circle, trying to understand the layout, but the corners of the room felt unstable, like they were shifting slightly when not directly looked at. They raised their phone, still recording. But the screen looked strange. The image was there, but slightly delayed, like it was struggling to process what it was seeing. They moved closer to the bed and noticed something on it. A small object resting perfectly in the center. It looked old, worn out of place. They reached for it slowly, and the moment their hand touched it, the air in the room changed. A low sound filled the space. Not loud, but constant, like a distant vibration. They turned quickly, but nothing had moved. Everything was still exactly as before, but the feeling had changed. The room no longer felt empty. It felt occupied, not by something visible, but by something aware, watching, waiting. They tried to open the door, but it didn't move. Panic started to build, slow at first, then stronger. They pulled the handle again. Nothing. They stepped back, trying to think, trying to stay calm, but the silence made it worse because it wasn't just quiet. It felt intentional, like the room was listening. They looked back at the object in their hand, and for a moment they couldn't remember picking it up. Time began to feel strange, moments stretched. Seconds felt longer than they should. They tried to check their phone, but the screen flickered. The recording was still running, but the footage looked wrong. The room on the screen didn't match the room they were in. Angles were off, shadows moved differently, like it was showing something else. Then suddenly the door opened on its own, slowly without a sound. The hallway outside looked normal again. Bright, empty, safe. They didn't wait. They stepped out immediately, almost stumbling into the hallway, and as soon as they turned back, the door was gone. They stood there, trying to breathe, trying to understand what just happened. The object was still in their hand, real solid proof that something had happened, but when they checked their phone, the recording was gone. Not corrupted, not damaged, just gone like it was never there.